Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast, is in no way affiliated with the band. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely the speaker's own.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast. We are here with our typical trio from here in the U.S., here to talk the time away with all things Level 42. I'm Bob Considine here with the very congenial Mikey Payne. So, say hello, Mikey.
Hello, and bum, 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 bum.
That's right. What a tease you are. And then the sometimes contrarian Winston M. Walker, Windman with many faces and many names. Win, say hello.
Hello, everyone. How you guys doing?
Good. It's really good to talk to you guys.
You too.
Been a while. Too long.
Mm-hmm.
So, we got an interesting show today. There's a lot going on. It's been a little while since we recorded. I just wanted to kind of touch on some of the highlights, and then I know you guys have some news items too. We'll start with tours and dates as we record this in early November. The band is closing out the year in a very busy fashion. They just played in Chile and the Sands 80s Festival in Cancun, where they apparently were very well received. And no signs of flesh-eating bacteria were reported from the pools. I think is great. They played Switzerland the night before we record this episode, and there is a great video posted on Facebook, which I can't wait to dig into after we record this. And then by the time this episode airs, they'll have played dates in the Netherlands, Germany, and they'll close out the month with two big dates at the O2 in London. But the big news, guys, is the band have announced a World Machine 40th anniversary tour for 2025. As of now, they're going to be doing 28-date tour in September and October through the UK. I'm sure we can expect some additional dates to be announced throughout Europe. So I wanted to put it to you guys. What do you think of this idea, honoring the 40th anniversary of the album that really extended the band to a new level of popularity?
Unintended. I think it's cool. I mean, obviously the obligatory, I hope they come to the States because this was a huge album from them here.
Right.
But either way, it is a great, great album. And I'm assuming they'll be playing it in its entirety with some other stuff. I don't know if they've officially said that, but makes sense.
Well, I think Mark did one recent interview and he did say that they were going to play the entire album in its entirety.
Awesome.
And by the way, you play the entire album in its entirety, so I just did a little double speak there.
Yeah.
But the curious thing is, did they do the UK version, which I'm hopeful?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They gonna do the bastardized US version.
Oh, no. Can you imagine? No. Oh.
But
that would be funny.
It's a great concept. I mean, like we said, this was a huge album. This is the one that broke them. You know, that took them to being a kind of a mid-level act to a larger act, for lack of a better term.
I was thinking, he's thinking, how do I say this without putting the word level in there? But he did. No, do it.
Well, I'll level with you. I think it's great. I know you and Win have been hearing from friends and stuff here in the States saying, why aren't they coming over here? Why aren't they coming over here? And again, I want to remind everybody, they would love to go everywhere.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to the promoter. And another fact is that some new U.S. tax regulations went into effect last year that charge X considerable amount more to play in the United States. So that's also part of the equation too. It's not that they don't want to come here. They obviously do, and they would if they could. But it's just, you can't just snap your finger and say, I want to play New York, you know?
No, totally. And I think there's a case to be made for, I haven't done this yet. I typically do, where I'll reach out to AEG in Los Angeles saying, hey, there's some U.S. fans that would love to see the band, and if there's any way we can help to make that happen. And typically those calls don't go answered. But I would remind folks.
They send you the, didn't you get that cease and desist letter, Mr. Considine?
No.
Well, our millions and millions of listeners can write AEG and say, hey, bring them to the States.
You're right, though, Mike. They would play anywhere, and I think they do want to play here. And the money is definitely an issue. And even before the most recent tax policies, even going back to 2010, I mean, it was tough to be profitable in the United States. I would, back in 2010, when they announced the 2010 tour, which I think was the 30th anniversary of the band at that point, the U.S. dates were not announced at the onset of the tour announcement. It came much later.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
So I'm still holding out a little hope. My recollection is they announced those dates in, I don't know, February or March of 2010, and all of a sudden they were coming in July. I was like, whoa. Thank God it didn't.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of lead time, I remember. Yeah.
And, to the point of money, there are a lot of bands that come here to the United States. They do somehow make it work, who are kind of at Level 42's level. I'm not going to go over names, but I mean, they do come here. I mean, it's not impossible, and, we'll see what happens.
Like Howard Jones.
Sure. But sometimes they're part of a package too.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. It also matters too with the number of members, the equipment that's required. Like I've seen Howard Jones quite a few times in Vegas, and for the most part, it was him.
Right.
A couple of shows with just him or one other person with him. He wasn't bringing a guitar player and a bass player and a drummer. And for, someone that's kind of synth based,
right.
Here can be rented. It doesn't need to cart over.
Right. That's a great point.
All that stuff. I mean, there's a ton of factors, but I agree with you that I would not rule out America because like you mentioned, that could be coming later.
Yeah, and if you look at all the comments, anywhere you can find news on this tour, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Level 42's page, there are comments like, are you coming to the U.S.? And we kind of discussed this before we went to recording this today, that for the folks who are able to see shows in the UK and, you're upset because they didn't play this particular town. It kind of hurts.
Cry me a river. Yeah, it does hurt a little bit, when it's like, they're not playing my hometown that I normally see them in. I have to get in a car and drive 45 minutes. This is bullshit.
Even I got to drive 90 minutes instead of 20.
Yeah, I know. They're playing 25 miles away and I can't go. I'm like, really?
Well, when they came to 2010, I'll try to do this quick. I drove from my home at the Jersey Shore, New Jersey, all the way down to Annapolis, Maryland for the first show.
Oh, yeah, that's a drive.
Then I had to go to a funeral back in Jersey the next day. I went up to the funeral, drove all the way back down to Virginia for that next show the next night, and then came back for the show in New York. So
in New York, yeah.
And so these are the things that we're willing to do for folks, for them to come over.
Yeah.
And I know it's not as cheap to travel these days too as it used to be.
Right.
Too. So that is a factor too.
Yeah. No, totally. It does seem that some people are going though. The U.S. people are flying.
Yes, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, you better look for tickets though, because most of the gigs have already sold out for this tour, believe it or not.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Mikey, because I think that actually could work in the favor of the U.S. Maybe doing shows if they see the theme of the anniversary of that album is such a big seller. Who knows? I mean, it was a big album here.
Yeah. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Is there any song you guys would be particularly looking forward to off that album that you just haven't heard?
Coup d'etat.
Yep, that's what I had.
Yeah. Coup d'etat. Yeah.
And I know, Mikey, you like Physical Presence too. That's a big song.
Yeah, the Physical Presence, the Wembley live version of that song just is incredible.
Yeah.
I was just having this discussion with a fan yesterday about
I saw you say that.
Yeah.
I prefer that one.
Yeah. Not to say I don't like Gary. I love Gary. I really do. But the Wembley version, to me, it just I heard that on a B-side for the first time.
Right.
Ages ago. And I was like, wow, what a really cool interpretation of this song. It's especially the ending. It's like, wow, where'd that come from? That, and of course, Lying Still is a great tune.
Mm-hmm.
They're all great tunes, but yeah. If I remember right, Bob, you mentioned that interview that Mark recently did.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he also say something to the effect of playing the songs in a different way? I thought he said something.
I can't remember.
Right. Kind of like they did.
Oh, it's going to be all acoustic.
I know.
Mike's going to get an accordion.
Can you imagine that if you showed up to the gig, like the first gig, and that's when you realize that it's just all acoustic?
Yeah, that would be real. That would be rough.
And then they come back out and they do the whole album again, just the regular way. But,
right.
But that would be like, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. If you do that full album, I mean, we're talking about a 45-minute show, so they have to play other things.
Yes. Yeah. But I would love to hear. I also always love to hear "I Sleep on My Heart." That was always a favorite song of mine from that album.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a song they haven't played.
Yeah, I think they've played every song.
Yeah, they played Coup d'etat a few years ago, and that was the last song on the album that hadn't been played live before, if memory serves.
Okay.
But did they ever do It's Not the Same for Us back in the day? Like 86?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, they did it during a Sirens tour or Sirens 2 tour, if I remember right.
You're absolutely that. Very good.
Because I remember seeing a video of YouTube.
Yep.
Or maybe they'll add in like the Shep Pettibone remix of something about it.
Yes, I'll be there to scratch the entire time.
Yeah. But it would be cool if they, we'd love to hear the tunes anyway they want to play them, really. But it'd be really cool if they kind of surprise us with different arrangements and things.
I think that's part and parcel. I think when they do the...
Yeah, that's the thing they do, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not every
Got to keep it fresh for the band.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've always been a big believer in, I don't really want to, when I go see someone live, like, I don't want to hear the album version.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have the album. I've listened to it a bunch of times. That's why I'm coming to see you live. So please do rearrange it. I remember my big disappointment going to, Bob will know this, the Felt Forum in Manhattan, behind Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely.
We went to see Jamiroquai. And that was when they were coming off the huge virtual insanity.
Yep.
That had just blown up all over the world. And we're enjoying the hell out of the show. They basically stretch out live, but when they played that song, they literally did like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And as soon as they start playing that song, obviously, that's the thing that they know.
Right.
Yeah.
They go insane, and they played it for like 4 minutes. I'm like, really, guys? And I thought, well, are they sick of playing this song now? Because it's been such a huge hit, and the U.S. got the last leg of 3 years of them touring or something. I don't know, but I was kind of like disappointed, like they didn't like stretch that one out, you know?
Well, I think about Something About You when they first came out. They did kind of the rap part at the end, and
Yes.
it's great because it rebuilds back into the song, the coda of the
Yeah.
song. It's awesome how they do that.
Yeah, but congratulations to Level 42. I mean, 40 years ago, the album that kind of changed their trajectory, and it still sounds as good today as it did the first time I heard it.
I agree with that. I really do. And I don't think we all listen to albums the way we used to, but at the time, man, that was it was just a journey, to listen to it from front to end.
Yeah. Shout out to my friend Linda Beardsley, because she actually messaged me yesterday, and she doesn't listen to Level 42 very much at home until I come over and visit, but she actually listened to the whole World Machine album yesterday. So I told her that we were talking about that today. So shout out to Linda Beardsley.
Very good, Linda. Hello.
Well, I got a shout out.
Good.
So we're recording this, November 10th?
Yep.
Yeah.
And today is JJ Bass's birthday.
Nice.
Jonathan Brazier, who runs the great Facebook group For All Things 42. So if you're not a member, hit Facebook, search for All Things 42. It's a great forum for the band.
And you can
and he's a bass player as well.
And get jealous every day.
Yes, he's got that he posted a picture of his new JD that's been being built for a few years now.
Yeah. With
the cherub inlays, and it's amazing looking.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, JJ.
Happy birthday. Guys, just before we get to our main topic, just a few more items for me, news items, because it's been busy.
Yeah.
As we know, Mike Lindup has an upcoming date at the Union Chapel on December 21st. Mikey, you're going.
Yeah, I will be there. Can't wait.
When are you going to show up there? Like November 28th?
Yeah, I'm going to be in line for 2 weeks. Yeah. No one's getting that front spot. No, that front pew, that's mine. No. No.
Pew.
What is it in church? It's like they have pews. It's unassigned seating. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Is that really how the seating is?
Yeah. From what I understand. I mean, if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, people. But yeah.
Yeah, Mike's going to do a reading. He's going to do a reading first.
Which Mike?
Let faith be my
dearly
shield.
Beloved.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
No, I like what Mikey said. The intro to Changes, the spoken word.
Yeah.
Yes, that was better than my Prince reference.
And there's some new music coming out from Mike, of course, which we'll have more. I think Mike will be back on the show very, very soon, which you could talk to him about that.
Awesome.
While we have a minute, guys, the condolences to Mike on the passing of his mother, Nadia Katous, just 5 days before her 100th birthday.
Yeah,
really
amazing.
An amazing life lived, singer, actress, activist, and kind of the queen supporter of the Belizean culture there for many years. And, condolences. Well, it was great to see the outpouring of love on all the Level 42 boards. And I know Mike was very appreciative of
that's
all
great.
Yeah, I didn't know much about Mike's mom until Mike started posting information about his mom and history and reading it. What a fascinating woman.
Yep.
And life.
Yeah.
I found it very inspiring. Just I had no idea. Some of the things that went on in her life were just amazing. And Mike's not bad either, is he? But Mike, hey, we're really sorry about your mom.
Yep.
And I did raise a glass on her 100th birthday in her honor. So Nadia, rest in peace.
And when you wanted to add something about Mike's music coming up?
Oh, yeah. I recall, I think it was in October, he did post, he was in the studio working on mastering Changes 2 for vinyl. So we can all look forward to that. I would definitely buy a vinyl copy. I'm still in between turntables at the moment, but I would definitely, because I'm one of the clowns who missed getting that re-release of Changes on vinyl, so I will not miss Changes 2 because I still love that album. So it'll be nice to have it on vinyl.
Right. He did the orange vinyl for Changes.
Yeah, he did the orange for Changes. Yeah.
I wonder what color he would do for the Changes 2.
Black. It's all the rage.
Purple?
Maybe.
Prince will sue. Prince Estate will sue. He owns that color now.
Yeah. And he has a new tune coming out, which is aptly called Perplexity. Did I get it right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping we could talk to him about next week. I mean, he is, whenever he puts something out, there's just an excitement because you know it's going to be good, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Couple other real quick mentions, and I know we're going to get to our main topic today, which is the 40th anniversary of the Influences album, which I can't wait to discuss with you guys. But
bum, 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 bum.
Was that Jack Bruce or was that Mikey? I can't tell.
It was Belinda Carlisle.
Oh, let's not go there. That's a reference. Wow. So Nathan King's band Frost with an asterisk, has a new double album called Life in the Wires. And folks, if you can, just go, where you stream music, give some tracks a listen, or a sample, because some of it's really good. There's a song, Life in the Wires Part 1, which you could, these guys are great players. My God, they're sick. And some of the harmonies on that track, to me, are a little bit reminiscent of like Asia in the 80s. But I don't know if that's a compliment to those guys, but I haven't heard a ton of it, but from what I've heard, it's very interesting and very good. So
I'll have to pick that up because I've heard nothing but good things, and it just keeps falling off my radar. And then I see someone post. So I've been a bit lazy, but I would love to check that out and get back to you guys next episode.
One last news item of note from me, Yolanda Charles's Project PH. The debut is coming out at the end of November, and I anticipate this album to be smoking. This is when Yolanda when she was on our show, we talked very enthusiastically about this project. It's kind of like there aren't many people mixing funk, progressive, R&B, jazz, rock. And I'm really amped up for this. I can't wait to hear it.
Me too.
If anybody's interested, go to projectphband.com for information on that.
And she's also playing at the Mike's live gig.
That's right.
Too. Yeah, along with some other special guests who we don't know yet.
When Mike played that show last year, Mikey, the rhythm section, it was Yolanda, and I'm so sorry I can't remember the drummer's name, but they just were fantastic. I mean, it's always amazing to me how musicians who are really talented could just pick up with not a lot of rehearsal and just be that locked in.
Yeah.
But did he mention that it's going to be the same drummer as well? I don't know why I thought that. Maybe not.
I haven't heard that yet.
I guess next week or so when we speak to Mike, we'll have to ask him. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming he'll know who's in the band.
Mikey, was there something else you wanted to add before we get to the main topic today?
Yeah, I also wanted to give a special shout out to the friends and family and a member of our forum who also passed away recently, and that's Mr. Tom Tomlin.
Great call.
Tom Tomlin, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I had the awesome chance to meet him several times over the decades, and it was always just seeing his, just living his life was very inspiring. And he was a great guy, and I know he's going to be missed by a lot of people. And I count myself fortunate to be able to have known him. And again, my heart goes out to his friends and family. And
it was great.
I
think I met him at Jazz Cafe shows.
Yeah, he just the enthusiasm just came out of it. He was just an amazing fella. So But yeah, guys, if you can believe it or not, we have been doing this a year now, which is incredible. Thank you to all of you who were listening and supporting us. We have had an absolute blast doing this, and we have some really great things coming up. So stay tuned. But Bob and Wynn, I wanted to ask you, now that we've done this for a year, what are your thoughts on if you learned anything since we started doing this? Do you have any special moments in the last 15 episodes we've done now?
I've definitely learned something. One is that I talk way too much. That's problem number one.
Really? You mean on the show?
Yeah,
You totally don't.
I think I do.
No.
Well, I mean, maybe obviously you're kind of like the host guy, so that makes sense. You kind of do the intro, the outro.
Right.
I don't know that either one of us thinks that you talk too much.
Okay, well, that's good. And for anybody who does, you don't have to tell me that I do. I already know.
Well, he's our boss. Can we say anything negative about Bob?
That's our boss. You're not the boss of me.
I'm not the boss of you. This is a perfect triangle. Yeah, no, it's been fun. And, honestly, I'll say this, Mikey, like, we record these things and then we put them out, and I don't tend to listen to them after we've recorded them, but I have gone back to a few and go, wow, you know what, this wasn't too bad. And hopefully we get better. It's all about getting better, and trying to hit on the topics that the Level 42 fans want to talk about or hear or listen to. I think we've all talked about maybe getting fans more involved in terms of getting questions asked. I think that's something we can achieve.
Right.
But I've enjoyed it. Even talking to Winston, it's been enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see my face, so that's good. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I think a couple of the episodes kind of stand. Obviously, the Lindup and the Jacko episodes were great. Again, if you haven't picked up Jacko's book, do it, because you will be amazed.
Yeah.
And then the ones with the first episode, because to get some insight from a fan that's been with the band since day one, and then of course the episode about the sort of the making of the box sets was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
All the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make that happen. So yeah, it's been very informative and been a lot of fun. I haven't listened to any episodes, that we recorded, but it's fun, and I look forward to, because we've got a lot of really cool people that have agreed to come on.
Yes.
So that'll be good to get those in the can and get them released.
Yes, definitely. We definitely,
and maybe we should
surprises.
Maybe we should say, hey, we're going to speak to this person. If you have a specific question for them, maybe we could ask it. Something that's not along the lines of, oh, what's your favorite song?
Right. For what
from the band members, like,
what did
what I mean?
Say during the?
Well, that would be a question that I would want to know, though.
Yeah.
So don't judge me.
Go
ahead.
Go on, Ben.
No, you finish. I got one last news thing I forgot. So let's tidy this bit up.
For me, we each of us, work on the production of these episodes afterwards, and I do a lot of the editing and sound and all that. And Bob does too, and I know Wynn does too. So, you're listening to, you're trying to do it that way, but when you're recording these episodes, it's not till I actually listen back, I'm like, I hear it in a different way when I'm editing it or whatever. And
that's a great point.
So I actually took the time, like you did, Bob, and listened to a couple of them recently, and for me, the definitely ones that stood out, it was the Mike Lindup interview. What a lot of people don't know is we never had any technical glitches in a recording of an episode until we recorded with Mike Lindup live, and that was fun because I took the power went out briefly and shut everything down on me.
Right.
And Mike was so cool to bear with us through that ordeal. You can't tell in the episode that there was some mad panic in the production room that day. Having Annie McCaig on, I've received so many comments from people saying thank you for having Annie McCaig out there. We've always wanted to know about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's a great point.
And also, I have to say, just trying to be objective as I can, I think the Jacko interview that we released, the last episode that we did, was, I think for us, one of the best episodes technically that we've done.
Yeah.
And it was just an excellent interview. So listening from what a lot of people don't know too is actually our first episode was Julian Hall.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually the first episode that we recorded prior to our intro one.
Exactly.
But just listening to that one and compared to Jacko, it's we've covered a lot of ground already.
I laughed that the first one we recorded was not our first show, which is very level 42 of us to do that because
it was like the
early podcast. Right? So you made a good point about listening to them again. I don't, and I guess the reason why is what Mikey brought up. He'll edit the audio version. He'll send me the file, and then I make the YouTube video version where I basically put in photos and pictures of stuff that we're talking about, video clips and things of that nature. So I'm kind of listening to the same sections over and over and over. So at that point, it's like I really don't need to hear it again because I've probably listened to it 3 times in the editing of that video.
Right.
But I do pick up a lot of stuff because like Bob will say something funny as hell and I won't even notice it while we're doing it live. And then I go back and I'm like sitting here like a lunatic laughing in my living room by myself while I'm editing it. So, it's definitely worth, for me when I hear it that way, because it's sort of more objective, and you think, oh, I could have made this point, or, oh, I sounded like a dolt.
No, that's a good point.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing, too, is like there's things I wanted to say, and I'm like, oh, because I went off in another direction or whatever, but yeah.
And you're right about one thing, because I think I did edit the audio for Jacko. 99% of the time it's Mikey. He does a great job. But on that one, I did have to go through that step by step. So I would probably never listen to that again, having done that one. So,
that, and it's hearing yourself in a, I love listening to you guys, listening to me. I feel sorry for you guys and the audience, but it's been a blast. I can't thank you and Winston enough. I've just, for me, it's been an absolute blast so far. Thanks to our listeners again.
Yeah.
And for your support, because you guys have been amazing too. And we've got a lot more coming up.
And thanks to the band,
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all about them in the end.
Yep.
So the last bit of news I meant to mention was in October, there were 3 albums released. And I guess they're culled from the box set. So there's 2 CD releases of Standing in the Light, World Machine, and Running in the Family.
Right.
They come with deluxe gatefold packaging. They each come with a booklet with a foreword by Simon Carson and Paul Waller, and then photos of like the singles from that album. So it's like disc 1 is the album, disc 2 is like remixes, edited versions, B-sides, etc. And it seems like a lot of people are picking them up because I would imagine not everyone, maybe you didn't want, you're a casual fan and you didn't want 3 boxes of the entire catalog of the band and you just want to, pick up your favorite album in that extended format, remastered, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of cool that they're doing that.
Any continued product is good product by me, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Love the options.
Thanks, Win.
Yep. All right, guys. So, main topic time, finally. A lot going
on.
We are
the worst song on the album.
We are
Go.
commemorating the 40th anniversary of Mark King's first solo album called Influences. Came out in July of '84. This was funny. The story behind it was kind of contractual obligation from Mark with Polydor Records. In the early '80s, they'd given him like some 5,000 pound advance, and then they knocked on the door towards the end of that contract and said, "Hey, you still owe us a solo album." And so it was a great gift for us, I think, because it really is, from my part, and I definitely want to get your feelings on the album, guys. But for me, this is like a 40-minute showcase to show, how complete. Really, that Mark was one of the most complete musicians of his era in the '80s, and the virtuosity in this thing is just ridiculous, and all the instruments he plays. So I'll put it to you, Win, first. When you think of the album, what do you think of?
Finding out that I didn't know that this existed, because I didn't get it right when it came out. Right. But, one of those New York record trip deals where you're flipping through that section like, ooh, what's this? Oh, cool. Or same thing with, I will always equate the song Freedom with this album.
Yeah.
And that's how I found that. It was like, oh, and then when I heard it, I'm like, oh my God, this is, hardcore early tapes kind of stuff that I really like. So I was thrilled with that. But overall, it's a hell of I would definitely put it in the jazz fusion category.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Mikey?
Well, like Win, I didn't know about it until much later. And in fact, I found it also in an upstate New York record store on CD. But it kind of made me nervous when I first saw it, because it said Mark King Influences. The cover was the U.S. cover from the It's Over video shoot.
Oh.
And I thought, for a moment, I was like, is Mark King going out on his own, going solo, and Level 42 are breaking up?
Right.
Not knowing anything about what it was.
You took the death spiral when you saw that.
Yeah,
huh?
I did. I was like, great, but where's Level 42? But now, of course, knowing the history, it makes sense that, I wish they would have kept the record sleeve the same as the original release.
Right. I forgot about that sleeve, Mike. That's a good point.
Yeah. I kind of understand it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because when that came out, so that we're talking about '84.
Right.
But when it released with that weird cover, it was '87, I think.
Yeah.
So they were kind of slipstreaming on the U.S. fans would know Level 42 from World Machine.
Yep.
Running in the Family era. Maybe they would recognize that shot from the video. Not sure about that, but it was like a weird choice. Like, why that picture and not just a regular recent picture of him? But maybe they figured that the tie-in would be, because I don't even remember, like, does that U.S. release say, like, on the cover, like, Mark King from Level 42?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't even think Level 42 is mentioned at all in anything in the literature.
No.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up. But yeah, that's an odd choice.
Yeah, I don't have the literature in front of me, but from what I remember is there were some words from Mark on the sleeve of the album talking about this. He tried to do this with as much one take feel as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, on the original. Well, yeah, okay. I thought maybe I don't think they mentioned on the U.S. anything out of the ordinary. But yeah, that was a weird choice. But I was happy to get the album.
Yeah,
I love that picture on the cover. Which
Very
I think
moody.
was shot by Sheila Rock, who does tons of, band artist photos. Pretty famous photographer, music photographer.
She rocks.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
No hanging fruit there.
Obviously, first of all, we should say when the album was released in the UK, it only got to number 77.
77, yeah.
So not a huge hit.
Only. No, I mean, gotta think. Okay, so after that, we're looking at true colors, right?
Correct.
So I don't know. I guess, even with the first two albums, if you take out the early tapes, this would be musically a departure for if you're fans of the band. I mean, sort of, because there were more vocal songs on the band. But I mean, look at the title, Influences. This is obviously heavily influenced by the stuff that he was into. I think it's amazing. One thing that I noticed when I was pulling out the vinyl, and I don't know that I noticed this back in the day, but at least the UK vinyl, on the back cover, there's the Level 42 logo.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
yeah, but not
I didn't know.
other. But I don't believe it's on like the Dutch version or the German release or whatever. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the upper right-hand corner of the back of that sleeve, it has like the Polydor logo, and then there's the Princess logo.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I just noticed that when I was pulling the stuff out, like, oh, okay, let me take a look. And it may even be, actually it's on the back of the French release as well. That's that little Princess logo.
Yeah. Well, it was never from Mark this. That was never, I'm going solo. It was just kind of like an obligation, And
I find that very interesting because it says, like, I think I was reading that on track book from Matt Phillips, Level 42.
Yeah.
He mentioned that this was a deal that he signed in 81.
Right.
To do a solo album and provide 2 singles, I think the book says.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting because that was like, okay, not only did these guys get a multi-album deal,
right, but
they gave him a solo deal. But I think I recall reading in one of the books, and again, I don't know if there's ever been an official biography, so I don't know how much of this is true, but I think they said that he went to them.
He did.
Saying, hey, I'll do this because I think he needed money.
His wife was
maybe
pregnant.
Had a family starting, right? That kind of thing. So going to buy a house, that kind of thing. Right. Okay. So it makes sense.
The album starts off with this 18-minute, 32-second tour de force known as The Essential, which is just stellar in every aspect. I mean, this one track hits on rock, jazz, as Winston said, fusion, funk, classical. Even there's a bit of Latin. There's an opera / choir section, and it's done pretty seamlessly. And he's playing most of the instruments. Obviously not the horns and things like that. But to me, it's just such a statement of just how well-rounded a musician he is. And
absolutely. It's
started as the drums,
right?
Yeah. And it's you kind of hit the nail on the head, Bob. It was like Mark saying, "Hey, you throw any music style at me, I can do it."
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've always said I think he's very underrated as a guitar player. Sorry, I just went on mute there. He's very underrated as a guitar player. Obviously, as a drummer, he's fantastic. I love this album. And another thing, guys, if you're ever on a treadmill and you're just trying to get out 20 minutes, because this is what you want to listen to, because it takes you out of the misery of being on a treadmill for 20 minutes. And you've already started your day. Just go through it and go, wow, that was pretty cool. I mean, I still find things in that album that, 40 years later, I'm like, oh, I never noticed that, And I love that about it.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to this album in a while. So I was like, well, let me fire it up on the stereo, and still great, I think.
What's your favorite
first
section?
song? Man, that's for favorite section of The Essential.
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe I don't know. That's hard. Probably Barcelona.
Yeah.
The part 6, I guess, where they released. Yeah, it kind of has that Latin, definitely Chick Corea Return to Forever vibe.
Yeah.
I guess they released that as the B-side when they did a promo single for the album,
Correct.
but it definitely heavy Return to Forever feel. He's got this sick finger bass line part that's really, really fast.
Yep.
Then eventually goes to like a super fast slap bass part that I'm sure when I heard it the first time, like I've really not heard anyone play the bass that fast in my life.
No,
I had heard Stanley Clark play super fast finger lines,
right.
But the slap, like on a record, you really didn't hear that, or I didn't.
I think that might be his fastest playing on record, like on a recording. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yes, I think so too.
And it's very Stanley. And I love the audio quality of the bass recording on that particular section.
Yeah. In fact, the whole mastering of that album is fantastic, in my opinion. It was mixed and mastered really well.
It was the guy who produced it, Jerry Boyes, I think was the guy's name.
Yep. Him and Mark produced. And one thing I found interesting was, this is just inside baseball, but looking at rereading the credits, recorded at Chipping Norton, but Marcus Studios and a studio called Red Bus Studios.
Right.
Now, I believe on this sleeve, it's bus is BUSS, like a recording bus in a studio.
Correct.
But I was also really into the British R&B group Imagination.
Oh yeah,
and they recorded. I remember reading they recorded at Red Bus Studios as well, but I think it was BUS. And so in my mind, it was always like, a red bus, like a bus is in London.
Right.
So I assumed that was the reference. But then when I see this, red bus was a studio, BUSS, makes a lot more sense. Silly, but that's something that came to mind when I was rereading the credits.
Yeah. And when we talked about the sections, and I know Barcelona, we know the name of that, but I could have swore each section had a name, and I cannot locate that information anywhere.
I don't know that it did. I don't recall. I just knew that one because they were like, maybe they were putting it as a single or something. And maybe somewhere it's written that he had names for them. I don't really recall that. But that's a good point. Because all the sections are kind of different.
Oh, they're way different,
Yeah.
I do love the Barcelona section. I wish they had names, because I don't want to sing the parts, but I love a lot of the guitar lines early in that song.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I maybe Simon will hear this and say, "Oh yeah, here's the names," and we can edit it in.
Yep.
Yeah, or look at the comments below. Maybe he'll post it in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great listen, and I think it's. I love the fact that they did it. They redid it at the Ronnie Scott shows.
I was going to say that. Yeah, hearing it live for the first time must have been incredible. I envy the people in that room.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Well, you can get it on CD.
True, but that must have just been crazy.
I listened to that CD.
Well, that surprised the heck out of me, finding out that, that's what they're going to do that whole album. Like, brilliant, because that is not something that was ever played.
Right. Now,
I think if we're going to there's 6 parts of the Essential, part 5 being this bass solo. A lot of that we heard over the years with Level 42, where he would incorporate parts of that a piece of Essential in his bass solos with the band. But other than that, you didn't really quote any of this stuff anywhere else. They didn't play any of the songs. Right. So to hear them play the whole thing live was pretty awesome. Pretty damn awesome.
There is one section, I've always contended this is true, but I feel like I'm the only one who says it. There's a section in the Essential, which they do play in the live version of Hot Water. I feel like the part where they go,
oh, you're right.
I
Maybe
think
that's
that's
that
the
part.
Essential.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I
Learn something new every day.
yeah. To
Goes
let
back-
people know. Oh, go ahead, Win.
No, I was gonna say, to go back to, I think we may have been talking offline about or I think we're doing the about World Machine 40th anniversary stuff, rearranging the songs live.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always exciting when they threw that bit in there.
Oh yeah, because
But
even
go ahead,
like
Mikey.
Freedom, would have they've gone rap. In
Yes, good point.
what song was that? Almost There.
Yes, yeah. So that brings up not to pause you, Mikey, but that brings up something I was going to mention. So I always equated Freedom with this album, and I guess he had done that deal, and then in 81, 82 he releases Freedom,
Mm-hmm.
but there is no mention on that Freedom single of Level 42, no
Mhm.
Princess logo, nothing, and it's not credited to Mark King.
That's right.
Other than the writing credits, So it's like Mark and Mike,
Mm-hmm.
Thunder Thumbs and the Tootsie Man, whatever. So that was kind of interesting. Like how that would be a question when we have Mark on, like, how did that come about?
Yep.
But it definitely would not feel out of place on the Influences album.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Agree.
I feel like he probably observed that song as a part of that obligation to the record company, and maybe they just did it as a single.
Oh, yeah. But it just seems odd that why not just credit it to, hey, kids, this is that guy or two of the guys from that band that you love.
Yeah.
Where did that choice come to just make up this, Thunder Thumbs thing, But I will say I love the artwork
Yeah.
on the cover of that single.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe the band wanted it out, but maybe the record company was like, "Well, that's not the direction we see you guys going in, but we're just going to put it out anyway, contractually." I don't know.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys make of the song "Clocks Go Forward"?
Well, I was going to say real fast. We keep talking about him playing the Influences live. It was off of a CD that you can find on level42.com or Amazon, I'm sure. But it's called Mark King and Friends Live in Soho, London 2012.
Right.
So pretty
always
much plays all of the
metal.
stuff off Influences and a few other tunes.
Yeah, it's recorded at Ronnie Scott's, which always made me think that maybe if they used the name Ronnie Scott's, they were going to have to give him a cut. So we just say
I think
live in
that's
Soho.
why. Yeah.
Yep. Because Ronnie Scott's is a hella famous venue, So I think if you're not based in the UK and you think of famous jazz clubs in London or something, most people are gonna go. They're gonna think Ronnie Scott. So I always thought that was odd. Like, why just live in Soho? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it was live in a back alley. It's freaking amazing.
It's amazing. And you guys, if you look, you'll find video from that. First of all, I don't know if they did two performances. They may have. But there's a video of they're doing "There Is a Dog," which is the fifth and final song off of Influences. And you get to see all these guys on such a small stage. And you have Gary Husband and Mike Lindup be, front and back of each other playing keyboards. The stage is so tight that where Gary is standing on the keyboards, there's a door behind him which keeps opening every time he leans back. And it's like
Oh, you're gonna have to link that.
And I that album is such a you know people complain there's no new music coming from Level 42. That album's a gift because, as you guys were saying before, to have that one album that's never really been played live and have
Mm-hmm.
basically so many different members of the band. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the first and only time we ever saw Gary Husband playing keyboards with a Level 42 based product,
Yeah.
show with Mike
Right.
on.
Yeah, that's a good point because I can remember seeing Gary. I mean, I knew he played keyboards, but I remember seeing Gary at BB King's in Times Square playing with Billy Cobham.
Yep.
You know, and obviously he's not going to play drums, and he's playing keyboards, and it just my jaw hit the floor. Like, this guy is an amazing pianist, amazing keyboardist, obviously an amazing drummer, but it was like next level keyboard playing,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mhm.
So I'll have to, man, now I want to see. Can we pause the video so I can watch this?
Let's wrap this up and then we'll
I don't think I've ever seen that. That's awesome.
it's awesome. I forget who shot it, but I'll send you the link and maybe you could drop it in the video.
Heck yeah. Bob, you were saying that the next tune was it was the single, wasn't it? Clocks Go Forward. Am I right?
I don't know if it was ever a single. I feel like I feel free.
I mean released as a single. I apologize.
Yeah,
I thought it was on vinyl.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So there was it was on vinyl. Obviously, there's an acetate of it. Clocks Go Forward, and then the back of it was they put Barcelona. That would have been the promo single, but I don't think it got a proper. I think that I Feel Free was the only single release.
Correct.
Proper, like you could go in the record shop and buy it, you know.
And I also think Barcelona was on the back of that.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. So, because I know the 45 is I Feel Free, but the backside of the 45 is There Is a Dog.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought Clocks Go Forward would have had a home on True Colors. I think I could see that working in there.
Yeah, it is a great. I mean, so this is the one where Drummy from Aswad plays drums.
Correct.
And it's got a great sort of mid-tempo groove. You know, it starts with the wordless vocals.
Yep.
Lyrics by Boone.
Yep.
You know, and they do the verse, they do the chorus. And for me, the best part, when they come back for the second verse, Drummy, he does this odd offbeat drum part that syncs with Mark's bass that I just love.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't know how to explain it. I'm not a drummer. People will listen to it, put it in the comments. Oh, that's actually called this. Great. But it's amazing. And that could definitely be a 42 album track.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mike's on it too. I mean, Mike Lindup singing backup.
Yeah.
I think the keyboard solo is his. I'd have to go back to make sure.
Yeah, the album, it doesn't. It's very sparse as far as who's playing what in a song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it basically just lists, you know, Mark plays this, Mike plays this. So you kind of have to maybe figure out, you know, who's doing the synth solo there, who's, you know, but it's like Mark is, you know, singing bass, guitar, keyboard, percussion, drums. Mike, it says Fender DX7 and backing vocals. So, you know, when there's a keyboard solo, I'm not sure, like.
Yeah. But you definitely hear his
who's
vocals
doing
for
that.
sure.
But definitely, yeah, you can. And speaking of vocals, like go back to part 2 of the Essentials, that choir is really, really, really amazing. And, you know, so there's 3 people, one of which is Mike Vernon, who produced the band. But I like that. I love Clocks Go Forward.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and to me, it is the most. I would have preferred that as a single, I think, than to I Feel Free, if I had a choice.
Yeah, yeah, I think so as well.
Really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not a
Cool.
fan. I don't know. The song is okay, but to begin with, I knew the Cream version.
Right.
It never really did anything for me.
Correct.
Not a bad song. That's not what I'm saying. But, it's like, I get why it's there, tribute to Jack Bruce, maybe, Cream,
Yep.
singing bass player. But it doesn't really, they could have taken that song off and put Freedom a Go-Go on there and I'd have been happy, but it doesn't really matter. Like, as a whole, it doesn't bring down the album for me because there's always going to be songs that are
right
less loved by the listener. And it kind of doesn't fit musically to me. It's doesn't really fit with the feel of all the other songs.
I love the tune.
I do.
I love
like
the tune.
Too. Go ahead, Mikey.
What
Hold
frustrated
on.
me.
Didn't you say at the intro that I was contrarian? So there you go, folks.
I love the tune. It's probably my next to The Essential, my second favorite track on the album. And what frustrated me is hearing, again, not to slam her too much, but to hear Belinda Carlisle's version on the radio. And I was like,
I've never heard that. I didn't even know she did that.
Yeah, she
should have been Mark King's version on the radio, but I digress.
Yeah, no,
I love the tune, and I love that it's a tribute to Cream and Jack Bruce.
I do too, and I like the way it's recorded. Very, very raw sounding, and the vocals are really great. There's some interesting things going on with the vocals on there.
Yeah, it's like music adrenaline for me.
Yeah, and just to go, no pun intended, to go back on Clocks Go Forward. You mentioned Drummy on the track, and the legend has it he was in the studio recording something else, and Mark ran into him in the hall, and he asked him to drum, and he did. Of course, we heard what it is, but I guess there was no drum thrown when they were recording it, so he was on a kind of a chair for the mixer, which had wheels on it. So he's drumming on a floor, like a wood floor, with wheels on the drums, and just sliding around while he's playing, which you don't.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That is, because you always see like the drummers, like they've got the drums on something so they stay in place, and definitely the chair. You don't want to be sliding around while you're trying to play. But I think there was something in the book too about the title came from because the date that they recorded it in England was the date that the clocks go forward. Right. So that's where the title of the song came from. Yep. I never knew until I read that On Track book by Matt Phillips.
That would make sense because I don't think they actually say clocks go forward in the song.
No, and another thing in The Essential and a couple of the other songs, I think There Is a Dog, and you can hear like Mark or someone talking, like background chatter.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, is that him? Like, are they in the studio talking and they just kind of threw that in the mix, So
you definitely hear talk in The Essential for sure.
Yeah. It's like that's pretty cool though. But yeah, I Feel Free is good. Not as good as the other song. Wouldn't be my favorite song of the album.
I would love to hear what Jack Bruce's reaction to that was. I have a inkling he probably liked it a lot.
I should think so. It's a great version of it.
Mm-hmm. And that leads us to Pictures on the Wall, which is another Boone Gould co-write. Great lyrics in this song. And, to me, kind of indicative of how good that writing combination was. And it feels like Mark has used so many Boone lyrics during his solo projects, and they was meshed really well. What I like about Pictures on the Wall is it was kind of, you had that offsetting drum pattern of snare and then the pad, and we would see that later in a song like "To Be With You Again." Probably some others I'm forgetting, and it was very kind of an in thing to be doing in the '80s. I do like that song. I think it's
I like it, as they say, a lot.
a lot.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah,
I love that it kind of has this chugging along kind of feel for the bass and drums. Sounds like their drum machine or electronic claps.
yeah.
And I can remember a time back in the 70s where I remember like Parliament, Funkadelic, there would be people in the studio around a mic clapping, you know, and then they got the electronic stuff, and it turned into that, you know. And I love we got Gary Barnacle and Steve Sidwell, like the horn hits in the song.
Yeah.
But then for me, like, it takes it to another level is Gary's got this sort of process sax solo.
Yeah, that's exactly
and
right.
Then Mark kind of joins them in unison by scatting over it.
Yep.
That's badass.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, Gary's always good, and you know, hell, he was around at the beginning of the band, you know. So it's
very
always good
underrated
to see him.
player. We probably don't talk about Gary Barnacle enough.
We need to get Gary on the show.
We're on
big
it.
time.
Yeah, especially with those two tracks that he wrote with Mark Tower and that Mark put out during COVID.
Yep.
That him and Gary wrote. Tower and another one I can't think of at the moment, but
yeah.
Gangsters. That's it.
Right. Now, didn't he? So before I even knew, I knew Level 42 back in the day because with Star Child, but Mark and Phil are on pop music. Isn't Gary on that as well?
I don't think Mark is on pop music. I think Gary and Phil are. I think Mark played on that album, but I don't think he's on.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I'm equating.
Right.
But I remember hearing that, and then like years later, like, holy crap! I look at the liner notes, like, there's Gary Barnacle. Like, who, you know, I didn't know that. You know, I knew. You know, I was listening to him that, you know, back in the 81 or whatever that was, you know, like he's been playing with these guys forever.
Yep. Now we got to get him on. And then the last song off the album, it's There Is a Dog, which is funny. The title is funny all by itself. But for me, it's kind of like this ripping Latin guitar. The drums are, for me, very Billy Cobham-esque. And, you know, going back to Gary Barnacle, great flute solo on that song, you know. And to me, I was kind of like, yeah, this is good, you know. But then when I saw it, the live and at Ronnie Scott's version and heard it, I'm like, man, this is such a cool tune. Like Nathan King playing acoustic guitar on it, you know.
Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, usually when I listen to influences, I usually stop at I Feel Free. So when I went back last night,
all right, this show is over. Mike, you're fired.
Happily, last night I listened to Pictures on the Wall, and There Is a Dog, and forgot how good and great those tunes actually are. So it was nice. It was really cool to kind of rediscover them last night in prepping for the show today. And by the way, if people are taking shots every time we say level, they're on their way right now.
Good luck. Now, so on There Is a Dog, I mean, first of all, it's funny saying that title. Like,
it is funny.
As you mentioned, There Is a Dog. Like, okay, is that I don't know. It's like, is that a response to a question?
But then there is
I think it's a take on There Is a God, and he's just spelling dog a god.
Oh my! Oh, Bob, you don't. If anyone ever says you talk too much, they're full of shit. Because I never would have put that together. How many years I've been reading this and like, this is funny. Okay. I'd say you learn something new every day. Goodness.
Oh my God.
Educational and informational.
Right now, there's thousands of people going to listen to it. Like, Winston, you're an idiot. How did you not know that?
Right
I'm
now,
an
they're in
idiot.
the
Okay.
audience going, "Oh, my dog."
Yes, well played. So I was just going to say, I felt like the solo, like it's a synth solo
Mhm.
and not a flute solo. Am I wrong?
Well, there's both. There's
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm half wrong.
maybe it's not a solo win, but there's definitely flute in the song.
Okay. There is a flute. Got it. Definitely Mahavishnu, Chikriya, Latin.
Yeah,
feel.
very Latin.
Right.
We always
Acoustic
associate
guitar.
we always, I think we tend to associate Latin music more with Mike, but Mark's definitely got some Latin moments in this album, both in There Is a Dog and influences. But
Yeah,
good
I think,
album overall. I'm glad we have it. It's always
Yes.
fun to go back to that. There's so much material out there from the band, and if you go back to something you haven't listened to maybe in years, and you're like, wow, it's just such a gift that we have all this stuff. I mean, we talk about if we were on a desert island, we had everything they ever recorded, including like Mark King's influences. We'd be just fine.
Yeah, and it's also brings up another point too. We have these solo albums from each member of Level 42. So it's always nice to hear sort of the fractional sound of Level 42 when they release their solo work, because it gives you a glimpse into their talents and their writing and their what they're thinking about, whatever. Mark King especially has done that in his solo stuff. Mike has. Phil, obviously, Beautiful Wounds and Watertight, which are brilliant albums too. Yeah. And of course, and especially Boone's album Tin Men, which was just freaking incredible.
Totally. Zen Gangsters too. Big fan of that.
Yeah, but the Influences album, if really no one has taken the time to listen to this offering, you don't know what you're missing, really.
I think I guarantee you that someone is going to listen to this podcast and either they didn't know that this album existed or they knew and they weren't lucky enough to find a copy of it. Because not everyone is, because honestly, is this available like on streaming services? I'm not sure.
It is on Spotify, I believe.
Oh, okay. Because if someone's going to find this album because of this podcast, I guarantee you, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, on one of the Low 42 forums recently, someone like, oh, I just found this. They weren't aware of it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's constant.
And that's going to be like, whoa.
But it's constant rediscovery. Even when we talk about stuff that's on the Level 42 boards on Facebook and the many good boards there are, somebody will post a video that somebody posted a year ago, and a year ago nobody saw it.
Yes.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff people will post, you're like, wow, it's this band playing something about you. Never seen that before. Hint, hint. And then someone pulls out a slice of fried gold. Like, how did this go under, beneath the radar for this many years? So it keeps coming,
Yep.
Yeah, I just recently posted something on 42 FM, and I know you guys know about it. It's the studio sessions from 1985-86. And when maybe it's the same for you on your channel, you post these things because you want to share them, but you don't know what kind of reception it's going to get. That one took off like gangbusters, and because people had never heard it before. So it's always, there's still things out there that I haven't seen or heard. So it's always nice that when people share whatever, because, even those of us who've been around forever haven't seen or heard everything. So we're surprised sometimes too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, guys.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, we're at the age of something will come up and have I seen this before?
Yeah,
like, I feel like I should have. And you don't really remember, or maybe you saw it once and, But sorry to step on your toes there.
No, I was just going to wrap it up, but keep going.
No, I was just going to say, we're talking about the 40th anniversary of Influences and True Colors this year. But, some of the early albums are going to start celebrating their 50th anniversary here pretty soon. It's just amazing
Hopefully
to think about.
Soon,
Hey, as long as I keep getting older, I'm not going to complain.
right.
Yeah.
On the right side
Skippy.
of the grass. Well, guys, I've enjoyed this get-together. Really good to talk about Influences and re-listen to that stuff. And also talk about all the good news going on. 2025 is going to be a great year. And I thank you guys for the conversation, as usual.
Thanks for having us. And thanks for letting us get some words in edgewise, Bob, because
no problem.
we talk too much.
It was
That's all right.
it was certainly
The joke that keeps on giving.
certainly no sacrifice on my part.
Hey, and to those in the States, happy Thanksgiving.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. That brings back fond memories. It was quite a few years we would go over for shows during the Thanksgiving period.
Mm-hmm.
God, yeah. Wow.
Have your
25 years ago.
All right, guys. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. For Winston Walker and Mikey Payne, I'm Bob Considine. We're leaving you now, but we'll wait till you return. See you next time, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Bum, 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 bum.
Ew. I'm gonna stop it.
Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.